And welcome to the X&1 Legion cast. I'm your host, Randy, joined by Matt and Mitchem. How's it going, guys?
Little bit of a whirlwind day here. So I'm doing good. You know, had a long day at work and a lot of, or I guess big announcements kind of dropped on us today. So,
Yeah, I'm having a bit of deja vu. I feel like we've been to this place before.
yeah.
Feel like I'm playing tug of war we're getting whiplash for all these announcements coming out and everything, trying to keep my ear to the ground and stay up to date on all this stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so there has been some announcements about competitive events in the Legion scene, and we will go through them as best we can. And after that, we have a interview with LJ Pena from Luminous Gaming to talk about the Las Vegas Open Invitational, which sounds really cool. I'm really excited for that. We did record that before some things came out, so it should all still make sense though. But yeah, well, let's get into it. But before we get into it, I must do my due diligence and interrogate us on our hobbying. So, Mitchum, how's it going?
Oh, it's so you guys are gonna have to cut me some slack. This past week has been pretty life changing, life altering. My son was born, and so my painting has been slacking. Thank you.
Woohoo, congratulations.
Yeah, he's about a week old now. Still adjusting to the new normal, as you would say. So my hobbying took a back seat. I'm not blaming. I'm not making excuses. I'm just telling the truth here. However, in the week I was off work, I had some downtime and I was able to get some paint on some models. I finished up a bolt action AT gun for my British 8th Army Desert Rats. So I added some detail to him. He looks really good. I had him done, but it was mostly tan because, the skin tones and then the desert color and stuff like that. Got some advice from some friends, went back and added some detail, and it looks a lot better. The second task I took up during my quote unquote vacation was I bought a box of Ewoks, like the dirty person I am. And I wanted to try them out, and I was like, oh, these will be super easy to paint. They'll be, it'll be quick. I could throw them on the table, like no big deal. Well, these little boogers are a pain to build. Let me tell you. Like, they have one contact point on the base, so it's impossible to get them to stand because they're like doing little ballerina running on their tiptoes. And then I'm gonna put my cone of shame on. I went to prime them, and I was gonna zenithal prime them. So I went on with matte black, like you're supposed to do. And all of a sudden, I look down and I have this gray primer, and I'm like, those would be great. I throw it on there, and it looks super shiny. And they dry. They're all shiny. They look terrible. And I realized that my primer was gloss primer, not matte finish.
Mm.
And it was bad. I tried to paint a test model, and the more paint I put on them, the worse and worse it got. And so that whole week ended up with me stripping everything down back to as base as I could. And then I just went over and re-primed them black, like recently. So I'm just going to start over. And
Are you getting new gray primer? New gray primer, or are you going to just
are in the process of getting more gray primer. I'm going to try a couple black ones. I want to try to have different colored fur in the whole unit. So I think I'm going to do a couple black, and then I have a couple shades of brown that I want to do. So kind of give them some diversity besides just a little head bandana that they wear, because I feel like that's the only really way you can diversify them. It's kind of the same thing I did with my Wookiees. I have 2 dark brown Wookiees, and I have a black squad of Wookiees. So And then I have one that I kind of like dry brush some gray on his fur. So he's like the elder, like unit leader. So that's kind of what I'll do here too.
Cool.
Yeah. So that's the goal. So I am now 18 or 19 of 52. So slowly but surely.
Well, you're doing a lot better than me. I am at like 10 of 60. I played some AI swoop bikes at the last local tournament, but I finally got one done with the actual rider on there, so he's looking pretty good.
There we go. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I saw a picture of that in the Discord, man. That looks so good.
Yeah. Ooh.
There we go. Yeah,
Nice.
I like the stripes on the head tails. Very nice.
Yeah, it came out pretty good. I was happy with that. And then other than that, I am just like in Cloud City terrain hell trying to get terrain pieces done for this Galaxy at War narrative tournament going on Saturday, which I hope goes good and everyone has a fun time at. So I've been busy working with Travis doing writing for that. But I have a lot of pieces that are mid paint job. I'm gonna come back strong, guys. I'm gonna hit that number.
I believe, Randy.
Your number's going up just coming into this weekend. So
yeah. So
hey, not gonna lie, they had us in the first half.
Yeah,
Randy. They had us in the first half.
Yeah, it'll be good. And then LSO's coming up. Maybe I'll pick some stuff that I don't have painted just to force myself to get more stuff done. But yeah, that's me.
I have been. I printed some stuff for Randy, and it got there today, so that's exciting. Made it in the mail. I because of the generic Jedi mini Strav tees, I was on Thingiverse, and I kind of got I printed a little Ortolan Jedi guy.
Yeah, that's cool.
He gone.
Are the Ortolans the little elephant guys?
Yeah, it's like Max Rebo. Max Rebo.
Okay.
So
was he the Jedi Master that they were in Clone Wars where it was Ahsoka and Anakin? They were trying to break someone out of prison with Tarkin.
No, I know.
No.
He had the scar on his eye.
He's the one that looks like a goblin, like a D&D goblin.
That's not what that is.
Yeah, no.
It's the little elephant.
Yeah,
guy.
so the Cantina, the Max Rebo. It's like the blue elephant on like the keyboard. It's one of those. It's one of those.
Okay.
And I have one I did earlier. It's like a Revan/Sith guy. I was just playing around. So anyway, which I have an FDM printer. So all
right, you said the elder words, but whatever plans that AMG has for Legion, all I'm asking is that it eventually leads to a Old Republic version of the game.
Dude, oh man,
sweet.
Don't get me started.
I will have no more bad words to say ever. I will just happily.
Give me my money. Take my money.
Yeah, take my money.
Take my money.
But yeah, my Wookiees are still not. I haven't really made much progress on my Wookiees. Hopefully, I get those done in the next couple weeks because I want to take them to our first LVO point, whatever series deal.
Invitational. Yep.
Yeah, so I'll probably get. It'll be one of my first times to run them, so it'll be a learning experience, I'm sure. And
that one's May 18th at
Gaming.
At Edmund Unplugged.
Edmund Unplugged.
Yep,
May 18th.
Unplugged.
Drew is organizing it. I think there's at least 12 people signed up right now. So
go sign up, get some points.
Yeah, get some points.
If you don't know what that means, listen to the interview.
Yeah.
After this.
Stay tuned.
And that's my hobby. So I'm not a lot of progress, but I didn't set any weird goals for myself. So I'm just on easy street.
We will set your goals for you next year, Matt.
Yeah, come on, man. Yeah.
No, thank you.
Yeah, because next year I'm going to be doing 60, so you got to do 52. And then Randy can do 100, I guess. I don't know.
Well, maybe let's not jump that high.
I've got 18 Wookiees almost done, so that'll be about 20 of some models. So
the problem is I have plenty of minis in my pile of shame to fill that number.
Yeah.
But anyways, so let's get into the scuttlebutt of what's been going on lately. So it was a week or two ago now that
2 weeks. To the
2
day.
weeks.
To the day. 2 weeks.
AMG put out a transmission about moving away from doing a World's Invitational and throwing support into backing GTs for pretty much the pre-existing large regional events that were already going on around the world. They talked about spreading that travel support costs, prize costs around to these different GTs to try to give everyone a bit more of at least that part of the experience. And I would say that the reaction was mixed at best. And I don't think that had anything to do with, oh, hey, we're going to support having GTs. I think everyone was happy and on board with that. But I mean, Matt, you just went to Worlds with a bunch of our guys, and it was really hype having all those people come together for top level Legion gameplay. So I mean, how did you guys feel about it?
I kind of felt like a little bit like the wind was taken out of my sails. We had this event, we were kind of on this high, we had this, great thing. I think we all were like really thinking about going back next year, if you could. And I think we all had, and then I think on the last episode, Travis, Josh, Preston, I think, and then me included, all kind of were like, yeah, no, definitely would do it again. So we were coming from that. And then this announcement it seemed to imply that, they were going away from the invite structure. They're moving away from Worlds to focus on the GTs, and then, kind of broadening the base. And they didn't think, the Worlds tournament circuit was the way forward. And, yeah, it kind of was I was definitely disappointed. And so that was why I was excited when this LVO, which we're going to talk about in a little bit, LVO Invitational got announced. But so I was just a little disappointed. It was a lot of change, like uncertainty. We're not sure what the support is going to look like from the GTs or for the GTs. And, cost was mentioned, and it was just, I was a little sad. So it was kind of tough. So I think I was kind of not really sure going forward, what my plan was going to be as far as events and stuff.
Yeah, I think it was also a cool way to, I think more than ever this past year, it felt like, and Matt, you can probably attest to this better than I can, but it felt like a Worlds event because there's players from all over the world at the event. I mean, just watching on stream, it seemed like everyone was, it seemed like a lot of people, English was their second language. And it seemed like a lot of our guys were talking about how a lot of upgrade cards were in different languages and stuff like that and everything. And so it felt really cool. And Matt, I think you played a couple guys from overseas, and a couple. I think Aaron, one of our guys, he played a German guy that gave him a little Akbar mini, and I know Colton played the British and eventual champion of Worlds on stream, which is really cool. And so it was really cool to kind of like for AMG to put their name on an event that was like, okay, I'm gonna go if I get an open qualifier, if I get my golden ticket, I'm gonna go and play against the best players in the world, and then I can become the best player at Legion in the world, and it's backed by the company that makes the game. So to me, that was always really cool because in the other games that I came from, i.e., 40K and Age of Sigmar, a lot of those world championship type games have been very community based, and they have their own sort of system in determining who the best player is in each region, but it always felt like AOS was like the best players are always in America, and it seemed like and I know the Games Workshop is in Great Britain and it's big over there, but it felt like it wasn't as world encompassing as Legion has felt since I've started playing Legion. Like I've heard of a lot more international tournaments and players than I ever did when I played Age of Sigmar and 40K. So I thought, that it was a cool way to, literally call yourself the best Legion player in the world. And so I'm a little sad to see that go, but and a little sneak peek after talking with LJ about the Las Vegas Open Invitational Series, it has me hyped for what is to come after this.
Yeah. And it felt like, and I was thinking about while you're talking, like a celebration. Like you have all these people here, like all the people that were able to be flown in. And it just felt like a celebration. And like it was just a really positive atmosphere. It was a huge event. And it was just really great.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think the big thing I feel like that we'll be missing, which, not to sound hypocritical, is that chase for an invite, because we talked in previous episode about the grind of it, but we didn't necessarily want it to go away. We just wanted a more refined system. Yeah. And I think the LVO Invitational sounds like they have a good idea for that, and I'm excited that will possibly fill that void. So that leads us into
that being said,
today, yeah,
we got another announcement that
today is in March or April 30th.
Yes, that AMG is redubbing the Adepticon GT tournament to be an open worlds, is what they called it.
Open Worlds Championship.
And not just for Legion, Armada, X-Wing, MCP, Shatterpoint.
Shatterpoint, yeah. Basically all of their tabletop games.
So yeah, I guess, sorry. So immediately thought first MCP World Championship, first Shatterpoint World Championship, because they did not have those at Adepticon this year. So that's exciting. And then Armada, not dead. So that's all.
Contrary to popular belief.
So that's all good. But yeah, I'll let you.
But now I will say MCP, they've had the LVO Invitational for a few years now already, which I think that community kind of thinks of it as its worlds in a sense. But the big difference is the open format, which fine if that's what you want to do. It kind of, from the announcement, seemed like it'll run similar kind of how Gen Con works, where there'll be a day or two of heats and then you qualify for the Saturday Sunday tournament, which I still think is great. It's probably still going to get a ton of players and you'll probably be tested, and I'm sure whoever wins that will still be considered a really good player. But I just, not having a series of tournaments to
test your metal.
Yes, throughout the year. And also, if I'm flying across the world, like having that, okay, I know I'm going to play this much because I've earned it. I think it makes a difference.
Yeah,
for sure.
So obviously, I'm assuming this tournament is going to be quite large. So, and I've heard that maybe with this new venue Adepticon's going to, maybe they can be open later on Sunday, which is a constraint that Adepticon has had in the past, is that it closes at like 4 on Sunday. So maybe this tournament can be very large. So if you have 2 large heats going into Saturday and you need to get done, you maybe do 6 rounds, 7 rounds between Saturday and Sunday. So you could get a lot of people in potentially. But I agree. I don't think it's going to be the same, like through the entire field level, probably as like a series qualifier would be, because anybody can register. So that might be a factor too. Is if it's somebody who hasn't played, like Travis was talking about, the GTs you occasionally get, and Josh will occasionally get people that haven't played that much that can sign up, because it's open.
Yeah, and they live close by, right?
which is fine. That's not a problem. I don't have any problem with that. But it could, if you're playing, someone's playing them, and then someone else is playing someone who's is trying to win the event level. So maybe there's more variance potentially, and I don't see how it'll be anything other than a functional one loss elimination.
The issue is we already have a lot of events like that throughout the year.
Mhm.
And the point of Worlds was to have that different event that is like, all right, we're setting a bar and you've got to meet this bar to participate. And I know there was some things that happened. Some people got in, and I mean, it sounded like a headache, and I can understand why you may not want to run that same system before, which is why I think we kind of were like, these invites need to be looked at again. But I don't know. It seemed like it kind of went all the way to the left, and now it's kind of come back a little bit, but everything still seems kind of nebulous on what does the GT support look like exactly? What will the Adepticon event look like exactly? We don't know what was planned ahead of time, but it seems like things are still being figured out.
Yeah, there's a lot we don't know. So at the risk of speculating, it's just confusing to me how we have the announcement 2 weeks ago that if it didn't outright say it, which apparently it didn't, it heavily implied that there was not going to be Worlds, to having a form of Worlds now, it's just a lot. I feel like mixed messages at minimum, and I just don't. And if you, I feel like you could have waited. I know they had the May deadline for the GT application, but that's a deadline they gave themselves,
Mhm.
So you could have. I think people would have been, if you waited till now to announce everything at once, I think people would have been clamoring for the announcement, which would be understandable. So I get maybe wanting to release it, but I think if you'd have released it all at once, the reception would have been better because you'd essentially been like, hey, we're not doing invites. We're not paying for flights. Here's Worlds. We're supporting GTs more. We're doing GTs. I think everyone would have maybe been disappointed, but I think it would have probably gone over better because I feel like in some places the room has been on fire for 2 weeks while everyone's been like very negative about World. I know some people in our Discord were pretty upset, and I was very disappointed as well. So I think you avoid a lot of that if you announce it all at once. But I'm not a PR announcement.
Yeah,
Comms.
and I'll say upset in the fact of it seemed like everyone went and had a really good time, and so those people wanted to go again and have the same experience. And then the people that had to miss out this year were like, "Oh man, I can't wait to go next year." And so, but hopefully this ends up being a net positive. Hopefully we have much cooler GTs now, and for the invite system, hopefully this LVO Invitational can fill that that competitive space for the people that are looking for it, which I think there's quite a few people who will be. And I bet the Adepticon World GT will have a ton of players at it still too. So
yeah, no, and if whoever wins that, obviously hats off to them because that will be a quite large event. It might be maybe a little bit more prestigious than another GT, I would say, just because I think the field will be so large. But I think you lose a little bit of the I don't think anybody's questioning who's the world champion this year, obviously. And I think maybe between that and the LVO Invitational and then, the lack of travel awards, I think maybe it's still kind of a little murkier, But I'm glad. I'd rather have this than not. I feel like than just not having it's this Adepticon being a GT, and I'm sure Adepticon is glad that this is at least dubbed the World's Open Championship versus just being another GT. So, because I'd hate for the attendance to go down year over year at Adepticon. So hopefully it is bigger and better.
yeah. Any final thoughts, guys, before we head into this interview?
The interview, just a little sneak peek before, because we filmed it before. The interview went great. I'm really looking forward to what LJ is doing, and the guys at Luminous Gaming are bringing to the table, and the chance to have a quote unquote season to work your way to get to the Super Bowl, like what Worlds has been in the past, and what keep using sports references.
No.
But
The whole time I was thinking, like, we want a Super Bowl. This is America.
yeah,
We don't want all these college bowl games.
Yeah, right. We just want one.
Yeah.
But there's something to be said about working towards a goal at the end of the season, and I feel like what the Luminous Gaming guys are doing with the LVO Invitational is going to be something really special, and give a lot of players all over the world like something to work towards while they're playing Legion, to get a chance to play in their Invitational Series at LVO in 2025. So really looking forward to the interview. LJ was a great guy. Love talking to him, and would love to have him on the podcast anytime again.
Yeah, no, it's great. I think their circuit is really well thought out, and we will go over it here in just a second. And I, had a good time with it. So I hope people don't detract from what LJ is trying to do with the LVO Invitational. I hope this doesn't take away from it, because I think that'd be a shame, because I really like what he's doing. So
No, hopefully it's a all ships get lifted situation. That's my hope. Okay, so we will head out, and you guys can start listening to the interview, which will happen in just a couple of seconds from now. And we are back here to talk with LJ from Luminous Gaming Special Projects, and he's got a very special project that he is working on, the Las Vegas Open Invitational for Star Wars Legion. And we're here to hear all about that. We're pretty stoked when it got announced that there was something coming to possibly fill a sudden void that had arrived in our competitive Legion gaming. How you doing, LJ?
I am great. We just had a raucous weekend here at the house. We were chatting about it before we started, but I'm about to make a move across the country here in a couple of days, and truly become a Florida man and hang out with the Florida Man Legion there on the East Coast, which I'm excited to do. They're a great community, and they'll be a fun group to get back into the game with as I return from this deployment, come back to helping with community events and all that good stuff.
We need to do like a special Florida Man Oklahoma off event or something.
The Florida men got us in the team league last time pretty bad.
They did. It was not pleasant.
So
I might actually have reason to come back your guys' direction, because I had been at Fort Sill, Oklahoma for 6 months, because that's where field artillery officers do their training, their basic training stuff.
Yeah.
And so there's actually a potential opportunity this upcoming year to go back there for captain's career course type stuff. So we'll see. I would love to come back over there and see how the community's changed and whatnot. So big fan of the area, just the state in general.
And Lawton's not too far from Oklahoma City.
Nobody wants to be in Lawton, so any excuse to
not
leave
at
Lawton is great. When I say I'm a fan of the area, it's basically everything but Lawton. So it was awesome to travel around, because nobody wanted to stay in the area, so I had lots of excuse to go other places when I was there.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody's from Lawton that listens to this. Hopefully not, because
hey, you know what? We're not missing much. I mean, they call it the armpit of the world for a reason.
Lawton slander. Sorry, our Lawton slander is over now. So
sorry, Lawton.
Oh man. It's okay. They got a highway that exits there. Okay, well, cool. So what is the LVO Invitational? What is it? What's about? How did it come about? Tell us the cool things.
The Star Wars Legion Invitational Series, or Las Vegas Open Invitational Series, is actually something that already existed. The LVOIS is something that's been around for a couple of years under a gentleman named Tyson, who has been running it for Marvel Crisis Protocol. And so 2 years ago, I was actually talking with Kicker from Frontline Gaming, who's their event manager and is the one that puts on all of the Frontline Gaming conventions. And he's like, hey, MCP's doing this cool invitational thing. Like, I want Legion on board with this. And I said, no. And he was like, oh man, that's such a bummer. Like, you guys would be so good at this. Like, you already do like all these events for us and stuff. And I was like, yeah, but AMG's really starting to cook with OP, and I'm looking forward to their next Worlds and whatnot. This was in 2022, and I wanted to see what was going to happen. And so I told him, like, hey, we're going to keep doing what we do. We'll keep an eye on this. And I started to kind of talk to Tyson about what it would look like if we ever did transition. And then fast forward 2 years later, I get back from this deployment, and we're kind of chatting about it because I didn't want to start it before I left and then have to hand it over to somebody else and not get to help with it myself. And then I got back, and AMG made their announcement. And there are a lot of ways as an event runner that I was super excited about their announcement, because we go from a couple backbone events in the United States being officially recognized, like big tournaments, to now the potential for there to be 20 to 30 in the States, which is great. And so what they did actually kind of rekindled my interest in creating an invitational, because I knew that the backbone of official events was going to get larger, and then we could add the system to their existing menu that they were already going to create as part of this new OP initiative. And so I went back to Tyson and was like, hey, I think now's the time. Can I copy your homework? He said yes. We immediately copy and pasted all of the great back-end work he had already done for Marvel Crisis Protocol. And then there was a team that helped me get some of the packets and the other Legion-specific stuff in order so we could get that ready to release to the community. And so, again, the outline, the backbone was kind of already there. We just put our noses to the ground for a couple days and really kind of nugged out some of the stuff that I had already talked to people about over the last couple of years and put it on a page. And the LVOIS for Star Wars Legion was officially born. So if this is your first time hearing about it, or if you're coming over for Marvel Crisis Protocol and you know what this is, there is a website out there called LVOIS.com. And that's going to basically tell you everything that I might explain sometime during this chat today. But yeah, so there's your background. That's where it came from. It is a series of events that are going to happen throughout this year, and going to officially registered LVIOs events are going to either give you an invitation for a tournament at the Las Vegas Open in 2025, or they're going to earn you points that may give you an invitation to that event at the end of this year or beginning of next year.
Very cool. I guess could you walk everyone through how an event is either like a points or an invitational or invite giving out event, or how does that work?
So it's really easy to become part of the LVOIS system. All you do is you go to the website, and there's a button that says Event Application Info, and that'll walk you through some of the basics for applying for an event. But one of the things that I want to stress up front is that there is no minimums. This system is not meant to only reward events that are 16 players and above. It's not meant to only happen at convention level events, although, of course, as an event runner at those levels, I love to have as many of those included as possible. You go and you apply for an event, and then you get approved. That's it. That's as easy as it is. And so we have two different types of events. There are points events and full qualifiers. A full qualifier earns you an invitation. The winner of that event will earn an invitation to the LVOIS. And then the points will give you points that, again, at the end of the year, as we're getting close to the convention, I will look to fill the last couple spots that aren't filled, and we'll start going down the list and asking people, hey, you are number one on the points list and you haven't earned an invite elsewhere. You are invited to this. They either say yes or no, and then we move on to the next person and go down the list. So one of the things that we have had a problem with the existing OP system and getting invites to Adepticon was that the number of invites that got out there in the world were kind of out of control, and in a good way, right? We had such a large event this year, and it was so awesome to see, and the fact that it all came together. I was very jealous that I missed it by like 2 weeks. I got home just after it happened, and I was really bummed I couldn't be there. But I know that's as an event runner, that scalability problem is something that definitely kept me up at night just thinking about that event as it grew and grew and grew, and the conversations I had with Andrea on the side about like that event and how that was going. And so there is a set number of invites that we're planning on giving, but the fact that there's an invite system and a point system will help us hit an exact number and be able to control the parameters and kind of grow as appropriate throughout the years after we do this initial run.
Yeah, because you're signing off on each individual event, so you control. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
So
and
you have
like
complete control over it.
if I need to give X amount of invites and I give X amount of store qualifiers, but only, 80% of those people that win actually show up to LVO, I don't have to panic or hold a smaller event or purposely give out more invites than I think I need, because then you just start going down the points list and people get, golden ticket emails that are like, hey, you're invited, you want to go? And I think that'll be something that'll really help an admin problem that we've had at other events that have tried to do similar things. And that credit goes to Tyson because that's his system that he made for MCP.
It just sounds like the logistics of it are just a lot more reasonable and a lot
Yes.
easier to manage on like a large scale events and stuff like that. And it'll be easier to kind of get the cream of the crop too for LVO. It sounds like as well with those
Hmm.
golden tickets and winning those big events.
Yeah, and I think you'll see a lot of representation too, because there is no minimums for your store to apply to be an invitational full qualifier. And I hope we will also see, some strong players from smaller communities that will win their local event and make the trek to LVO. And it'll be a better representation of the community because of that. Not just, your super duper, go to every convention, try hard, competitive kind of player, but you'll see a wider variety of people, which I think will be neat.
So when they apply, do they just apply and then you either make it a point or a qualifier, or is it they apply for one or the other? Or
Yeah, so when you apply, you just apply straight up. Um, One of the things that Tyson stressed to me when he was kind of teaching me how he uses the system is he likes to give a lot of invitationals and invitational spots right out the gate, and he establishes that baseline as quickly as possible. And then as the year goes on, you'll start to see more points only events. The application also says that if you're holding an event at the same location, it should be 90 days apart. And so if you have a store that applied for, and this has happened already, if you have a store that has applied for event in May, and then they go and apply for one 3 months later and 3 months later, and they schedule it out from now to December, which is awesome. And I've already seen, which is really cool. Maybe we'll make the first event a full qualifier and then the second 2 points only. That way it helps distribute the invites neatly. And it doesn't mean that like one location should not be giving away 20 invites. There's the potential for 20 people to earn an invite from an area if it also kind of rewards you for continuing to hold events, but it'll be based off the point system rather than winning a full qualifier. And that's just right now, that's my discretion and my preference. Another thing that Tyson told me is like, okay, you've had this first year, you had somebody that told you they could get 64 people and they got 8 people. Maybe you give them a full points qualifier instead of a full qualifier until they prove to you that they can, do what they say they're going to do. There also have been a couple events that in the forum they've just been like, we want to run a points only. Okay, great. And I think as the system develops too, there is going to be a bit of a mentality around that, because like you might hold your, your store champs type event in May, and then when you do the next one, in September in the fall or whatever, then you decide, hey, I want to reward my competitive players, but I still want to make this a standard event that attracts people from all over the place. So let's make it a points only event so that the people that hit that top group still get something out of it, but you can also attract, everybody instead of just trying to do it for your competitive crowd.
very cool. We've talked about that in the past about how we in our area, I just felt like it was store championships, just month after month after month. And I feel like it kind of got where we were all just sweating it out every single month. And I think when people would show up and they weren't necessarily, that wasn't what they had in mind, what their goal was, it kind of beat them down a little bit. And so I think this is good to maybe have like a another tier in between there. You know, it's points. So if you win, you know, great, you get some points. If not, you know, no big deal. Not like a direct invite to Adepticon or whatever on the line. So I think that's pretty cool.
It's neat. It's almost like a yearly ELO almost too. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a perfect 1-to-1, but I thought that was interesting. And correct me if I'm wrong, but we were kind of looking at the scoring. So if you do more than like 3 events, will it take your best 3 point?
Yeah, so the system is designed to basically take your best 3 placements, but again, you only get points if you place in the top 8 of a qualifying or a full points event. And then if your event is over 48 players, it'll be 8 to 16. So it's not going to be every single time you go to an event. Again, it depends on how well you place. If you get in the top 3 every time, then you're definitely getting those points. But if you get like a 2nd place finish, a 4th place finish, an 8th, a 9th, a 12th, it's only going to take those first top 3 because those are your best 3 finishes, and only those 3 finishes earned you points. So it doesn't necessarily represent every single event that you go to, but only the events that you earned that kind of podium spot, that top 8 or top 16, depending on the size of your event.
Yeah, and I thought that was a good way to balance the rewarding someone for going to more events, but not just being able to grind out events to boost themselves up the ladder.
Yeah, you get quality and quantity in both. Both, you get quantity players, and then you also get the quality players that only go to big GTs once or twice a year. But then you get the guys that goes to, you know, every weekend. So that's nice to kind of touch every dynamic.
Yeah, and that was something that I think the way Frontline did their events and their qualifications for 40K and their top ladders for like Age of Sigmar, I think that influenced Tyson. And we're just kind of seeing now like a cyclic system of like, hey, we're all kind of bumming off each other basically, and now it's our turn to contribute something to that system, which is really exciting. And yeah, I think the community really gets to benefit by that system being refined over the last 5 years or so, from Frontline and now Tyson doing the LVOIS for MCP. So I had heard a lot of good things about it. I don't play MCP competitively, but I do go to tournaments and events in the area every once in a while. I've been to an LVOIS qualifier before, and it's just the system runs really well with like other existing architecture, which I think is great. And like you said, it's a reason to go and play at an event. And even if you don't win that invite at a full qualifier, you're still going to get a lot of points for being in the top 8, and like that may feed into an invite down the road, which I think is cool.
Yeah. So I know we've kind of touched on this already a little bit, but you've mentioned a few times that there's no minimum. But is there a maximum? Is there a player cap, or like how does the size of the event affect the amount of points that a person can get? You know, if someone goes to like a 10-man tournament versus a 250-man tournament or something like that.
Yeah, so on the LVOIS website, there is a tab that says Invitational Event Rules, and that has specifically how things are going to work at the Las Vegas Open. But because the Open is also going to have a event that you can join to try to earn one of the spots, it also has those that breakdown for how points are earned. And so if your event has 15 or less players, you're going to earn points equal to 100% of the players in attendance. So if 10 players show up, first place will receive 10 points. And then there's brackets for beyond that. So 16 to 22, there's a bracket. First place earns 16 points. 23 to 47 players, first place earns 20 points. 48 to 68 earns 24 points. And 69 and above earns 30 points. So there's right now we kind of have a maximum and a not a minimum, but like a lower bracket, a lower set of middle brackets based on how many people show up. And then when you start seeing the scores populate, you'll notice there's also a decimal point, and that decimal point is based on the total number of players. So essentially the tiebreaker, if 2 people have the same amount of points from their top 3 scores, is going to be, okay, who attended the bigger event? So there is kind of a reward for, events to get bigger and to go to those bigger events, because if it came down to some sort of true tiebreaker and I was trying to pick between person A and person B to extend an invite to at the end of the season, that's how we would break that tie, is that decimal point.
Better than SOS. Sorry, SOS.
Low bar, Matt.
Yeah,
low bar.
no, so the MCP already doing this in some form makes a lot of sense to me, because my first thought when I saw this was like, holy cow, this is already really well, like really organized. And there's like structure and answers for pretty much everything.
Yeah,
so I was
some of
kind of
that
shocked.
is some of that is that 2-year thing I was mentioning, because for people that have been part of the community for a long time and they know the work that I did in 2019, 2020, 2021 with Team Relentless and creating some store champs guidelines for store owners that were like, hey, I want to buy this box and run a Legion store champs, but I have no idea what to do because I don't play Legion myself. There are a lot of elements in it that we took from stuff that I have done over the last 6 years or so. So things that we've learned having streamers and events are in the play space and spectator section. Sportsmanship comes from Nima being the head judge at basically everything I've done over the last 6 years. The how to qualify comes from Tyson and his experience and what he's learned doing this for MCP. So, I took lead on this and try to create these documents as quickly as possible, but I can't begin to explain how thankful I am for all the people that volunteered their help and their eyes and their viewpoints on these. I purposely tried to grab a couple people that were maybe on the more casual side and a couple rules-oriented folks and a lawyer and just different people from different walks and experiences to kind of take different looks at this and make the event rules and the series guidelines what they are. And the other thing, just to kind of again give you a little more background, when Tyson did this, this didn't exist for MCP. They didn't have a Galactic Conquest type document that governed their events. So a lot of the reason why there is so much backbone for the TOs to work with if they want it is because at the time it simply didn't exist for him and his community. And it does for us when we came into this. So what we wanted to do was we wanted to say, hey, look, this backbone already exists. Here's some other stuff you can do on top of it, or just run a Galactic Conquest event and have a good time and give out an invite. If you want to run a standard thing as prescribed by AMG, this supports it. If you want to try using a chess clock, for example, because some elements of community do want to do that, or they want to do it at the top cut or whatever, here's our chess clock rules that have been refined over several Invader Leagues and more than a couple of in-person events. If you are still confused on how to set up a board because you're not somebody that plays Legion, but you want to run an LVOIS event, here's some quick guidelines to just kind of help you get things set up and be realistic about how much terrain you might need to run a successful event. Or if you're just super uncomfortable about, judging and rules disputes and dealing with, game state violations or slow play, hey, here are some guidelines for how we're going to deal with it at our events. And if you want to use that, use it.
Very cool.
Cool. So LVO will have this invitational going, right? Will there still be open tournaments for Legion going on alongside of it? It sounded like there'll be an LCQ, but I didn't know if there would be just another standard tournament or will it be focused on doubles and other events like that.
Yeah, so there is a full outlined, ready to go schedule that I'm just waiting for one word from Frontline to unveil upon the universe, as I usually do this time of year. But basically the through line is that there will be an open or a GT style event. Because you can run a GT as an LVO Invitational, the top 8 from that are going to earn an invite to the Invitational, which starts the next day. And then we will have those people play another another set of games on that day while the Invitational also begins. And then the next day, the Invitational will conclude, and we'll also have a doubles tournament at the same time, like we usually do on Sunday at LVO every year. On Friday, where there is no Invitational play, we have an event planned that will allow players to come together and play a couple more games at their own pace in a way that I think will benefit people that are getting to a convention for the Invitational, but will want to maybe knock the rust off, throw some dice, or practice against some really good opponents. And that's something, again, that we've borrowed from other systems. We call that scrambles. So scrambles are going to be kind of something that is running during the entire event that will not have a financial cost associated for you to do it. And you'll show up to the desk and you'll say, I want to register for scrambles. And as soon as there's 8 people ready, we'll say, all right, here's your 4 tables, play 3 rounds, report back when you're done. And so we've got 3 open style events: Scramble, Doubles, and the GT, and then the Invitational. So there's actually a total of 4 different events we plan on running at LVO this year.
Yeah, that sounds really great, especially if you're flying in or traveling really far and you want to play Standard Legion.
Yep. And
having the opportunity to do so is great. Yeah.
I will tell you that, again, I'll wait for the full schedule to come out to really break it down, but you're looking at 6 to 7 games for the people who see the Open through to the end, and 6 to 7 games for the people that see the Invitational through to the end. And for the Mad Lad that plays in the Open and the Invitational, you're probably looking at 10 to 11 games over 3 days. So we know the games are important to people. We know they want to play the games. And so I've always, prided ourselves on being able to build systems that meet the community needs. And I think this one will do it really well. The initial announcement did not mention anything about an Open or an LCQ or anything like that. And I immediately got a ton of feedback about how terrible that was and how they hate me for it and all that. And I was thinking to myself, like, guys, we're really excited to get this Invitational thing out. It's going to be a separate but connected event. So don't worry, there's going to be more news later. And, we feel like we have a really good system in place where honestly, in a way, I wasn't mad about it. I was kind of touched because we've been doing this event for 6 years now. And you had people that were like, I come to LVO for this. And so it really made me, take a step back and realize, hey, we need to make sure this is priority too. And so for the people that are maybe worried that the LVO experience they used to know is going to change, it's not. You're still going to get more, if not the same number, but probably more games than you did at previous LVOs. And there's going to be this awesome community event happening at the same time, which I hope will be a good time for everybody that attends.
I saw some people. I was on a Reddit thread, and they were like, "Oh, are they going to have the Open still?" I was like, "There's no way they're not going to have the Open still."
No, there's and that kind of leads me in nicely to a follow-on point of how many people are going to fill this Invitational. And if you check out the Invitational event rules, it's actually got some hard numbers in it, stuff that'll be a little easier to share with everybody because it's already out there. But one of the points in the later part of the document says that I am looking to give out 119 confirmed invites throughout this year. Then there will be 8 spots at a minimum that will be given out at the Open GT style event during LVO. And then there's 1 spot that is saved for the person that wins the previous LVO Invitational. Obviously, we haven't had one yet, but I have a pretty good person in mind that won an event in Chicago last month that we might give that invite to. And his name is Luke Cook. No, I talked to Ollie about it because I wanted to tell him, like, hey, we're trying to do our own thing with this system, but you did win the largest Legion event to date. So there'll be, like I said, 119 spots that we'll try to fill with Invitational. As soon as I give out 119 full qualifiers and then people stop saying yes, that's when we'll start backfilling that 119 with points. And then we'll take 8 or however many we need from the open to the first day of the invitational, and allow everybody else to keep playing because they paid to be there, so we're going to let them play. And then the last spot, like I said, will be filled by that previous LVOIS championship. And there's some other fun stuff that I'll wait for them to announce it, but I think Frontline is going to do for the people that win Frontline Gaming Event GTs. Because they're really being supportive of the system, and Kicker's talked to me about some perks he wants to give to the people that specifically win their events that they're going to pay for, which I think is pretty exciting.
That's awesome. And 128 is a great number for Swiss. 256 is one too big.
And when you can basically guarantee you have 128, it makes it a really, really, really smooth event. I think because we've got the open and the invitational crossing paths on that Saturday, we're probably looking at 256 people at the same time, all in the same hall, and that's going to be cool. I mean, what else can you say?
Yeah. That's what Worlds was like, and it was very cool. It was also a little insane. So
insane. That bubble is where I've lived for the last 6 years. We're looking at upgrades, people, and Jordan did a great job carrying the torch for me at the last LVO, and we were still over 128 people for that event, and so we just we got to keep pushing. We can't not stop pushing these events and making them bigger, because it creates a competitive aspect amongst tournament organizers, and I got to keep up, otherwise AJ is going to beat me over there in the UK.
Yeah.
Because those guys are doing a good job with their invitationals, their systems, and the French did a huge event where all 128 players were able to use chess clocks. Different people push these different envelopes, so I think this is just our way of pushing an envelope, and I love seeing how the community and other people respond, because if they look at our event, they're like, well, I want to make a better one, and then they make a better event, we all win at the end of the day.
100%. Yep, 100%. Community driven. 100%.
Yeah, no, I'm really excited. This looks really cool. So I saw some things on there about Longshanks. Is that based off of what happened with the Game Uplink at Adepticon? Is there a preference there? Or?
No, so the Longshanks tie-in really comes from the way that Tyson was already running the LVOIS before Legion got here. They partnered with Longshanks because the website uses a player ID number. And the reason why that player ID number is great is because, my name's not super common, but if I go to an event and I sign up as Leland Pena and I'm in Game Uplink as Leland Pena, and somebody else goes to an event and they sign up as Leland Pena, and now there's 2 different Leland Penas on the ELO, or my favorite example was the guy that signed up as Orchimedes and did that as a joke and played an event as him. You can't do that with the way that the Longshanks system works. And so everything that Tyson built on the back end, on the Excel side, the soulless Excel side, as I love to call it, is all based on that number. And so what that does for me is, if you go to 12 events, you're going to earn all of the points that you deserve, because that sheet is going to take that number, know that it's you, and give you your points. Or if you get a better score this time, update one of those top 3 and make sure you get the best score that you could possibly get. And so it really was an admin thing more than anything else. I've been working with one of the guys over there, Red Sam, who has added a couple features for Legion lately. You couldn't select your battle cards when you did your score. That's in there now. It does list parsing based off JSON exports, kind of like when you're playing TTS. Instead of using the direct link, it uses the JSON function, and now that will pull all of the stats for battle cards, command hand, and units that are used, and all of those stats go right into Longshanks on the website, so you can see what units are currently being taken in mass across events across the world, and which player on Longshanks has the best score or the most wins with this specific battle force or whatever. So there were also some data integrations that are just straight up built into the website that don't require anybody to push any additional buttons that were really cool to me. So I was happy to let it play out this time and see how it worked. The head judge at the Invitational at LVO has always been Nima, who is the front end developer for Game Uplink. So when he was helping me edit the player packet, it was like, hey, wait a second. I was like, hey, don't take it personally, Nima. I was the one that pushed Game Uplink for LVO 2023. We were the first big event that used it, and then I got them to use it for Worlds when I was head judge in 2023. So, like, it's not that I have anything against it. It's just the back end was already built to support this product. So let's just use it, because I don't want to change too much for our first season. We'll see how it goes, but this is a proven system that supports this proven effort. So let's not mess it up too much, right? And so that was the big reason why. But it doesn't stop you from using other softwares. The guidelines do specify that if you want to use Game Uplink, Roll Better, Best Coast Pairings, Challenge, there's a number of softwares that will perfectly support your tournament out there. If you want to use pen and paper, that's fine. But we also, because we're building towards this event that we know when it's going to happen and we know what the parameters are, we wanted to be upfront and say, hey, this is what we're using. So if you want to start using this, your players can get practice with that thing, so that by the time we get to LVO, they already know how the system works and they know the ups and the downs of it. So it was also kind of a transparency thing. We kind of wanted to pick something up front, and Longshanks just happened to kind of meet all the criteria that I was looking for.
Well, that makes sense. It sounds like they have a little bit of functionality there built in already. So that I get that. For the GTs that have been announced by AMG, you guys are expecting to just be able to have your thing just added into that, and I don't know if they've applied for it already, or are you expecting them to be involved in the LVO Invitational as well?
Oh yeah. So there's no, again, the systems are not built to grate against each other. Our system is meant to mutually support what the GT system is already doing. And so if you are running a GT style event and you would also like to be an LVO IS event, then apply. There's nothing that stops you from doing both at the same time. And again, it is written in the rules that if you want to run your event using the GC document, which is what you have to do if you run a GT, then use the Galactic Conquest document. That's fine. There's no problems with that whatsoever. So I know we haven't seen what events are approved as GTs yet, but there are more than a couple on here that have applied for GT status that are already approved, and you can see are LVOIS events. Specifically, I believe Evergreen Open has applied for GT status. The UK folks have 2 or 3 that have already applied. Lone Star Open, one of the frontline events. Pretty much all the frontline events I know are straight up applying for it. Lone Star is approved and on there. SoCal Open is approved and on there. And you're going to see more pop up. Richmond Open. So yeah, the systems are meant to play together. There is nothing in our document that says you have to do something this way. The only thing it says is if you're using Galactic Conquest rules, you're good to go. So that baseline establishes everything else that I would have had to mandate. So for example, that it'd be a standard 800-point event. You can't run a skirmish event and have it be a qualifier. All of the things that the GC document already tells you to do are all the things that we expect you to do as an LVOIS event. And again, the minimums, the maximums, those are not a problem, as we've already talked about. The optional rules that we've talked about, like, if you want to use a chess clock for your top cut, that is an optional rule that you can use if you're running your event and you're not using the GC standard. So it really is intended to work within the system and be supportive of the events you're already running. And if people really buy into this system, which so far they are, and we can talk about why I think that here in a second, I think it'll also give people another reason to go travel to your events. So if they're looking for points, because they, didn't win their local invitational, but they know that, a convention event in the next state over is an approved GT and a full points event or a qualifier, then maybe they'll want to go to your event now. So my hope is that this system being an add-on and not a direct competitor in a lot of ways will only boost everybody's events. And again, the same thing I said earlier. If we're all supporting each other and people are trying to outdo each other in a way, it just makes events better at the end of the day, because it's not like there's so much happening that you have to be super choosy. There's still we're still at a point in the Legion growing community where most areas only have one big event that are next to them, or it's reasonable to expect people to travel to, let's say, one big event a year, because financially, who's going to travel across the country to 10 different events a year? Not everybody can support that. I know I certainly can't. And so I think that if you're looking at applying, or you have already applied for a GT, apply for it to be an LVOIS event too, and you can get added to the schedule. It takes me a whole 5 minutes to do the Solus Excel process, but then you're on the website and you're on the Google Calendar, the schedule, and now you're on a place where other people are constantly flipping through, and maybe it'll drive more people to come to your event.
Nice. That sounds really great, and I'm glad that this is happening at LVO too. Just because always watching it, it always felt like a world style event. Anyways, it always seemed to have a lot of people that traveled, and I don't know if it's just me, but it always seemed like the meta showdowns actually happened at LVO, and then whenever Adepticon would come, we would get the counter meta to that kind of thing, like the surprise. So I don't know if it's just like where it is in the year just flows better with the game releases or something. I don't know, but that's just me. But cool, yeah. Like I'm really stoked that this is happening. It sounds really well thought out, and I don't, Matt or Mitchem, you guys had anything else you want to throw at LJ? Or
I'm good. I'm excited. I don't know if there's anything, LJ, we missed or we haven't talked about that you want to talk about, but
I mean, the only other thing I really wanted to mention, because we're super proud of it already, is that we have 45 events approved and on the calendar already, which is that buy-in portion I was mentioning earlier. We opened the website up, what was it, Tuesday? So it's been 5 days, and we already have 45 events on the calendar. 15 of those events, so what is that? A third of them are international events. So there are 6 UK events. There are 3 or 4 Australian events. There's Canadian events. I've already talked to some of the French TOs and the Italian TOs to try to get them on as well. You just mentioned LVO kind of had a wider draw as it was already, and was an event that there were international folks that travel, that they would travel there. I will never forget Dave Grant's People's Champion run with,
absolutely,
with this Gav and Palt Vader. So it's not like we didn't already have that draw, but the fact that we already have had buy-in from the international community is great. And I encourage people to apply to have their event be recognized by the LVOIS. I think you should apply if you are having an 8-person store local fun event. I think you should apply if you're running a convention. I think you should apply if you're somewhere in the middle. Anybody is welcome to and should apply. And right now, especially this first year, we're feeling things out to see kind of how this goes, and we're giving stuff out left and right, because we know that the community deserves to have these big events that are worth something, and that people will enjoy. And so I just encourage everybody that is interested to apply and see how it goes. The load for running an event is what you are already doing to begin with. If you're the TO, or maybe the store says, hey, we're going to run it, but we want you to be the LVOIS person, it's meant to kind of work within those constraints. All you have to do is go to the LVOIS website, hit that event application tab, read the rules so you understand what you're doing, and then fill out a form. And then when the event is done, I'll email you saying, hey, your event is approved. Here's the form that you fill out when you're ready to submit your results. And then you submit your results, and the website and the Excel sheets, they do all the rest. So the additional load on a TO, if you're worried about that part of it, is very minimal. And there's really not much more that you had to do that you weren't doing already. Again, we're encouraging people to use Longshanks because that's what we're going to use for LVO, but it's not necessary. So don't think you have to completely switch what you were doing last month to now try to do something this month. And don't be afraid to schedule stuff that's coming up as soon as possible. There's like 9 events in May. Every weekend has at least 2 events, which is fantastic. And that's the other reason why I think I'm going to encourage people to apply now, because what I've seen is some smaller stores schedule their Legion events out to December, because you can only have an event at a location every 90 days or 3 months. And so there's like one store in Texas specifically that was like, okay, we have our May event, and we have our August-September event, and we have our December event. And those are already on the calendars, ready to go. And now their players know when their tournaments are, so they can plan around them. So I think there's also kind of there's an opportunity here for stores to build that coordination within their community, that if they didn't already have it, now here's a way for you to create that backbone for your players and just make things more routine, more dependable. And now you start to see stuff like, there are now several stores that talk to each other, and now, okay, this weekend is you, this weekend is you, this weekend is you. And the kind of player that can be tapped into that community and travel can now go play Legion every weekend, right? So it's all meant to build, it's all meant to be very scalable. And like I said, there are a lot of years of lessons learned that have gone into it. So we're excited to finally unveil this product. With the timing of AMG's announcement and stuff, it seemed right that this thing was ready to go. But to be perfectly honest too, I came home from this deployment. I was like, all right, where do we begin? Let's go.
Yeah.
So it was time, and I was ready to help Jordan run it, manage it for him. And he's done such a good job managing all the frontline events for me while I was gone, and all his other efforts he's involved in. So this feels like, for me, it kind of felt like a way for me to give back to the community a little bit too, and thank him for what he took care of for me while I was gone.
Yeah. Well, great. And that's the website again. It's lvois.com.
Yep, that's
You
it.
can find all the rules and everything there. Simple. Yep. And then, so go register your event. And if you're a player, just make sure you have that Longshanks ID, right? For the points. And yeah, go out there and play Legion.
Yeah, and even if you don't, like I said, if your event doesn't use Longshanks, you can actually still just go get a Longshanks account and tell your TO, hey, when you submit the results, here's my number. And even if you didn't use Longshanks, you can still use that number, because let's say you went to one store tournament that used it and one store tournament that didn't, and you want to make sure you get all your points that you deserve. So I do encourage, and have already seen that popping up, which is great. If your TO is comfortable doing one thing and you want to use this ID on the side, again, the system is built to support that. And as long as people communicate with us and are transparent, we'll make it easy on you to the best of our ability. If you have questions and you want to ask more about the Legion LVOIS system, you can find me pretty much anywhere as Talk Polite on the Legion Discord, or other Discords I might be part of at any given day. We also do have an email. It is lvolegionevent.com, and that's where you'll see all our communication come from. So if you or your store owner has a question and they want to reach out and see what being part of the system might require, you can reach out at that LVO Legion event email, or you can, like I said, find me on Discord or anywhere else, and we'd be happy to answer your questions, because we want to see more events sign up. I would love to have the problem of we have too many events and I need to scale it down next year and do more points events, because that means we were really successful this first year. And so
yeah, for sure.
I think I think when we start to hit that point, we're getting close to the 119. Then the enthusiasm might slow down a little bit. But I think for now, like in this early stage, just to kind of feel out the community, we're approving events left and right. And when I went to the website, there's a tab that says qualifier event schedule, and you can click on it and you can see an Excel doc which we actually improved on. You can now sort by country and state and province, which is super cool, as well as date. But anyway, there's also one of the tabs that has it on a Google Calendar, which I mentioned earlier. And when you start clicking through the Google Calendar and you see all the events on all these like weekends and whatnot, like that to me, that like hit me, and I was like, man, this is gonna be fun. Like we're doing something that is really entertaining. And I mean, you flip through again, even like the later months in the fall and getting to winter, like there are events scheduled out to December 14th right now, including the Dust Bowl battles in Oklahoma.
Yeah, we got a few on there. We got a few on there.
So, again, as a person who's tried to really grow this community over the last 6 years, like that's the kind of thing that makes it all worth it. And all I'm saying is I'm seeing people that were already good at this job provide a better product for their community. And so we're really tapping into all the awesome things that leaders across the world were already doing and trying to bring it in a cohesive product at the end of the year. And so, I appreciate the compliments you guys gave about the way it's built and the way the system looks from the outside and stuff like that. But it exists because the community is what it is. And it's going to continue to grow because the Legion community is as awesome as it is. So I really look forward to this effort growing. Tyson did his qualifier at 64 players. We're doing our first at 128 because I know if you build it, they will come, and the Legion community will respond in kind. So I'm really excited because I think the community is awesome, and it's going to support the good things that were already there within it.
Absolutely. Well, cool. LJ, thank you so much for joining us. This was really great getting to hear about this and kind of grill you on it and get insight into it. So until next time, this is Randy, Matt, Mitchem, and LJ. And X and O is just a game away and a bunch of LVO points. Maybe. Yeah. See ya.
Yep.